We've completed 3 of the 4 steps to deploy our project to Heroku. The final thing that we need to do, as mentioned in our previous video, is to create a proc file. A proc file is a Heroku-specific type of file that tells Heroku how to run our project. To create the proc file, I'm going to redirect the echo command. I will type echo web:/python run.py greater than procfile with a capital P. It's important to note that the proc file has a capital P, not a lowercase p, as this is the requirement for Heroku. What this line does is tell Heroku that it's going to be a web process, and the command to run our application is python run.py, which is the name of the Python file that we've created. When I open the proc file that was just created, you can see that's exactly what it contains. Now we can push our proc file to Heroku in the terminal. Git add procfile, followed by git commit -m add procfile. Finally, git push, and that will push our code over to Heroku. Just like last time, it's detected that we have a Python app, and is therefore installing the appropriate requirements. You'll notice as well that it's picked up our procfile, which has declared the type of a web process. It then says that it's launching our application, and then finally that it's deployed to Heroku. When I refresh the app, you can see that it's successfully loading now, but we are not finished yet. Remember how we needed to create a secret key in order to use the flash function for messages? If I were to try and submit the contact form now, it would throw an error. This is because our secret key is an environment variable within our env.py file, and that file is being ignored by Git from our .gitignore file, so Heroku cannot see it. Before we fix that, I just want to show you one very important page that you will become quite familiar with during development. If we go back into Heroku, click on More in the top right-hand corner, and then click on View Logs, then we can see the history of our most recent build. This is where you should come to check for any application errors. You can also access these logs in your terminal by typing Heroku logs --tail --app and then the app name. So for me, it would be Thorin Flask app. Let's fix this error now. So we'll head over to the settings page. We need to add any hidden environment variables, or config vars, within our app settings. Click on Reveal Config Vars. First, let's add the key of IP and the value of 0.0.0.0 and click on Add. Next, we'll add the key of port and the value of 5000, then click Add. If you recall, these were set at the bottom of our run.py file to get the app running. We need to grab the secret key variable now from our hidden env.py file, so just copy that and let's paste that key into Heroku. Be sure not to include any quotes for your key value pairs. Our value will be the secret key string that we set. Copy that, again without the quotes, and then paste that into Heroku and click Add. Now we can click on More and view logs once again. Everything is running just fine, but if we needed to, we could manually restart the build by clicking More and then Restart All Dynos. The dyno is the container that's actually running our application. Dynos will only run if the site is being viewed, but will go back to sleep after 30 minutes of inactivity. If you work on your Heroku app, then step away from your computer for some time, you'll notice that it takes a bit longer to reload the page. This is because the dynos are waking back up and generating the app again out of hibernation. You can now see that the rebuild was successful and that our app is still running in the browser. Alright, so even though that's working just fine now, sometimes you might want to disconnect Heroku and set your app to automatically deploy from GitHub instead. If we go back to Heroku and click on the Deploy tab, you can see that GitHub is one of our options as a method for deployment. Let's connect our app to GitHub now. We need to make sure to use the correct repository name, so I will just go back to my GitHub repo and copy the name just in case. Next, I'll paste that back into Heroku and click on Search. Success! It found the correct repository, so now I can click on Connect. The next thing we need to do is to enable automatic deployment from our master branch. You can see that it's now connected, so let's deploy that by clicking on Deploy Branch. Our application has failed to build, and this is because our app is now reading the code from GitHub instead, but we haven't pushed our code to GitHub yet. Back within my terminal, I will clean up the screen a bit and then show the current remotes that are connected. If I were to type git status, you can see that we have nothing to commit. I'd like to remove the Heroku remote so that only GitHub is connected to this project. Git remote rm Heroku. The RM stands for remove, and then the name of the remote to remove, which is Heroku. Just to show you that's been removed, let's type git remote -v one more time, and surely enough, only GitHub remains. I need to now force everything over to GitHub, so let's type git add -A, then git commit -m, push to GitHub. Finally, let's push this to our GitHub origin remote instead of Heroku, so git push origin master. To confirm this, let's go back to our GitHub repository and double check that it's worked. You can see that it shows my last commit was 7 hours ago, with just the initial commit made when I generated my repository. But if I refresh the page, you can now see that our push was successful. Let's head back over to Heroku, and once again, click on Deploy Branch, since we know for a fact that our code is now sitting on GitHub as well. This is looking a bit more promising now. Excellent. So now it shows me your app was successfully deployed. I just want to double check the build log, so we'll click on the Activity tab and then View Build Log. Everything looks great here, and it shows that our build was finished, so let's just open the app and check that it's still loading fine. Our page is now fully functional, and we've now seen two ways how to deploy to Heroku, either by using the Heroku toolbuilt or by setting up automatic deployments from GitHub. Remember the 4 key steps. The first thing that we need to do is to create our Heroku app. The second thing is to either link our local Git repository with Heroku or set up automatic deployment from GitHub. The third thing is to create a requirements.txt file, which will install the dependencies for our project and tell Heroku that we're using Python. And then finally, the fourth thing is to create a proc file. We've covered an awful lot of ground using Flask. We've gone from a very basic Hello World application to a fully fledged web app. Our app has custom routing, template logic, and a JSON data store. Also in this section, we've seen how to deploy everything to Heroku so that it's public and on the internet to share. We suggest that you take time before moving on in order to familiarize yourself with the structure of Flask and Heroku's terminology. Congratulations for deploying your first Heroku web app. We'll see you in the next unit.